this really is the only way to travel. And it's how generations of kings, queens, princes and noblemen have arrived at the Palace of Hampton Court, where today 8 artists are lined up in front of its magnificent Baroque east front to compete in the crown jewels of art competitions. Welcome to a brand new series of Landscape Artist of the Year. 2,000 applications, 48 artists, 8 pods, and in our 10th anniversary series, some truly iconic views.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
This is possibly one of the most daunting landscapes in Britain.
I'm looking at all the trains, planes, automobiles and getting a little bit stressed, to be honest.
This year, our artists have painted, drawn, printed and collaged like never before.
Literally holding everything down. Hopefully it will stay.
I just want this piece to convey the chaoticness of today. There's a lot of people, it's really hot.
And if painting an artwork in 4 hours wasn't complicated enough, they'll be under the scrutiny of our 3 judges.
The thing that's really winding me up is this sort of giant lollipop in the middle one.
Yeah.
What's going on?
With 50 landscape artist wildcards at every heat.
You're like half man, half umbrella.
Yeah, this is a new invention for today because it's so hot, isn't it?
It is hot, yeah. I feel like we're having an umbrella fight.
Yeah.
The prize our artists are competing for is a £10,000 commission to paint a landscape in the south of France, a region that's inspired some of the world's greatest painters. Our winner will retrace the steps of Van Gogh, Monet and Cézanne to create an artwork for London's Courtauld Gallery. But working through one of the hottest days of the year won't be easy.
It's like painting with treacle or concrete.
So wish them luck in this heat.
Already the backs of my knees are sweating, so I feel like it's not a good start.
And join us as we search for the next Landscape Artist of the Year.
It's like a mathematical equation, the whole place. My heart bleeds for our artists, as usual.
Blessed with glorious sunshine today, our 8 artists are textile designer Jill Hurst from Brighton, John Shave, an artist and art tutor from Norfolk who grew up in Australia, Ben McGregor, who runs a furniture company near his home in Surrey, and professional landscape artist Barry Lowenhoff from Sudbury in Suffolk.
It's such a pleasure to be here and an honour to be amongst so many other great artists.
Also happy to be here today, Batch Singh, a teacher in printmaking from Birmingham, designer Hannah Day from Stourbridge, illustrator Imogen Slater from York, and Leslie Banks, a professional artist from Glasgow.
I was feeling quite calm, but I think there's definitely adrenaline kicking in, so I won't have any more coffee.
All our artists were selected on the strength of a submitted landscape, which they've brought with them today, along with their very favourite bits of kit.
I like to sort of buy things second-hand, and I bought this nice briefcase from a car boot sale, which now carries my paints in.
This pen roll that I made years ago, which is made out of some old jeans, so it's a bit of an upcycle.
And as the sun beats down on the pods, they're looking at how to tackle today's view.
To be able to have sunshine and shadows and a building and a garden with the sunlight bouncing off bits of gold is great.
Artists, I hope you're ready to Baroque and roll. You have 4 hours to complete your challenge and your time starts now. Today's artists are presented with a side-on view of Sir Christopher Wren's 17th century Baroque palace. with each pod given a slightly different perspective on the scene. Stretching out in front of them is the Privy Garden with its lush green lawns, sculpted topiary and abundance of colourful plants and flowers bathed in strong sunlight.
The topiary is quite overwhelming, and the way that it's so geometric and the windows, I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to tackle that, but I'm definitely going to go and have a look at some different angles.
I'll be struggling with the windows and all those panes of glass. But there is some lovely colour in that garden, so I'll be all right.
A lot of the times, I like to go for a walk first and then reflect that walk through the drawing. I also use collage, so I've brought some materials about the palace. I think it gives new life to old bits of paper, I suppose.
Bach Singh gained a degree in art and design at the University of Leeds and now works at the University of Gloucestershire as technical demonstrator of printmaking. Bach's submission of a scene near his home in Handsworth took 2 weeks and uses watercolour, oils and collage to create a work reflecting the culture and intensity of the area.
Morning, Bach.
Morning.
What did you find out on your walk this morning?
The story today is that we're at a very ornate place with a lot of history.
Presumably when you're looking for stories, you're looking for something a bit sort of grittier like you had in your submission. It felt like you'd grabbed bits of the scene and collaged it together in a more creative way to add tension. Are you going to be doing that today?
I'm planning on doing something similar to that, but I do want to interpret the people and include them as part of the landscape. Who knows? Could be a mess. I'll try my best. I didn't mean for that to rhyme.
When I paint a landscape, I'm aiming for a sense of the place. I either start with orange, red, yellow, something, to get a feel of what I'm looking at.
Professional painter Leslie Banks studied fine art at Glasgow School of Art. Her submission in oils is a nocturne, painted on a recent journey to Italy's Cinque Terre, and uses heightened colour to illuminate the village of Vernazza at night.
Leslie, you started with this kind of quite fierce orange colour that's really dictating the warmth level of the picture. But is it a colour you normally work with?
Yeah, I rarely start with a white canvas.
Yeah.
So it would either be a orangey colour, red, maybe yellow.
And, I mean, the colour in your submission, the nocturnal blue sky is absolutely gorgeous, with the lightness of touch, which is quite different to the rest of the picture. It's more abstracted. Are you going to have that quality here today, where you have, like, the more described things and then the looser?
Hopefully. I've been trying to loosen up and focus on areas of the painting that can be quite tight. That's the plan.
That's a lot of windows. I mean, that's a lot of windows.
I don't think we've been in a landscape which has so much repetition in it. So, yes, a lot of windows, a lot of rectangular windows, a lot of round windows.
Yeah. It's like
a lot of conical topiary, a lot of repetition in the garden. So it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And my heart bleeds for our artists, as usual.
Also, as the pods get closer to the building looms larger in their vision. So the artists at the far end are predominantly garden with a building at the end. At this end, it's building, building, building.
I hadn't even thought of that yet. Absolutely
That's
right.
why I'm here.
It's like a mathematical equation, the whole place. So we're hoping to get a bit of that reflected in the paintings, but we'd also like to see the artists be creative and work their way through it and produce something interesting. So, yes, all to play for.
It's exciting.
I would say I'm a figurative, traditional painter, but I like to Frankenstein things together from memory or from life. Today is quite tricky because it's all about the angles, and I like to make the composition exactly how I want it.
Illustrator Imogen Slater studied art history at Cambridge and has a Master's in Fine Art from the New York Academy of Art. Imogen's submission, a painting within a painting of two figures caught between natural and virtual worlds, captures her interest in illusion and took several days to complete.
Morning, Imogen.
Morning.
I see you've just been for a walk.
Yeah, I want to make sure I've got as many different perspectives to check that I've got the right composition.
OK.
Down by the stairs, there were some really amazing angles, especially that hedge there that meets it.
OK. And I'm looking at this lovely sketch here, and
Yes,
it reminds me of your wonderful submission. But you've got that lovely sense of perspective and depth in that as well. And, of course, I mean, can't forget the strange figures lying on the ground. It's so full of story. I mean, does your work always tend to have that level of drama? And will you be looking for that
there
today?
to be a level of drama, even if it's just in the perspective.
OK.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll see.
My style, I guess, is impressionistic. I like to use kind of painterly brush effects and not pay attention to perspective or stuff having to look exactly as it appears in front of me.
During the day, Ben McGregor runs a luxury furniture company, and in the evenings and weekends, he turns to his love of painting. Ben's submission is of a road in the Wiltshire countryside, as the late afternoon sun coloured the landscape and is rendered in his semi-abstract, slightly psychedelic style.
Ben, hello.
Hi, Ty.
On this sweltering day in Hampton Court. I was just looking how you set up your painting today. You're avoiding any built-up area, really.
Well, I have decided to tackle the palace, partially, because I don't want to just ignore it. I think it's important that I show that I can do something that isn't organic.
OK. Ben, we loved your submission. It is very weird. And I must say, the way you put paint down is very idiosyncratic, but it's intriguing.
Yeah.
You're almost putting down paint to confuse us a bit, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. I like to abstract the landscape enough. I mean, I like to just go for it.
Our 8 artists aren't the only ones painting today at Hampton Court. Setting up around the fountain across from the pods are our 50 landscape artist wildcards, and they've come prepared.
So I brought with me a 30-year-old easel that I bought in Edinburgh when I was a student in the 90s, but it has been in my garage for a while, so it's very happy to be in the open air.
My oil paint will start melting sooner, but I've got an umbrella for that, so I hope it's not going to be too rainy. I've no Lucky Charms with me, but I've got loads of snacks to keep me going and my lunch meal deal.
I'm fascinated to see what you're working with. Is this like packaging from your house you bought?
No, it's a cardboard box from the skips at Hampton Court Palace.
So everyone else comes to Hampton Court Palace for a very kind of genteel, touristy day out, and you kind of went straight away bin diving?
I got someone else to bin dive.
Very good. Yeah. Very Marcel Duchamp.
Just one of these wildcards will be in the running for a coveted place in this year's semi-final. And flattery will get them everywhere.
You have a really good name.
What do you mean?
Your name, my husband's called Stephen.
What's the surname?
Mangold.
You're kidding. Your partner's called Stephen Mangold?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I'm not doing very fast work at the minute. I should be a little bit further along by now, but I think the heat isn't helping.
It looks like I haven't done that much now, but hopefully when I've collaged in some elements, it'll take up a lot of space.
I'm going to try not to do too much detail on the palace. There will be some areas I'll just leave quite loose. Thought I'd be further on, so we'll see how it goes.
At Hampton Court Palace in Surrey, things are heating up for our 8 artists.
It's hard working conditions.
And our next competitor is trying her best to keep her cool.
I think the building is a little bit daunting because there's a lot of order. I think I want to put a lot of emphasis on the gardens because I feel like that's the main feature of the space to me.
After completing a master's at Oxford School of Architecture, Hannah Day now designs and develops adventure leisure spaces. In her submission, A Street Scene of Lower Manhattan in New York City, she exaggerates vibrant tones to give the piece energy.
Hannah, welcome to Heatwave Hampton Court Palace.
Thank you very much.
Loved your underpainting, this very fierce orange coral colour.
I think it really helps to contrast with the green.
I think what we loved about your submission was the brightness and the flatness of that blue sky. It takes us slightly into a different space. It was more creative, more imaginative. And I can already see that treatment coming into play here with this brilliant composition where you've shoved the building right over there.
Yeah, very much on purpose. I think the gardens is what sings. I feel like it should be celebrated in this.
I really hope you can pull this off, Hannah.
Me too.
I really like working with charcoal pencils and a few pastels. We can have a great set of dynamic going on with the really dark shades and a little bit of colour. I might grow out of black and white eventually, but who knows?
Barry Lowenhoff studied graphic design at Canterbury College of Art and enjoyed a 45-year career as a graphic designer. His submission in watercolour, charcoal and pastel of a small waterfall in Connemara, Western Ireland, uses both bold and light marks to create a sense of movement in the landscape.
Barry, you put in this rather lovely loose, is it watercolour?
It's actually watercolour and liquid charcoal. It does have a nice
It looks
texture.
very painterly and lovely. Barry, let's talk about your submission. You've got the water and then you've got the texture of the pine trees. You wish you were there, rather. Yeah. We loved it for those choices you made. You're working with a graphic material.
Yes.
And I get this feeling with you that the trees and the water, you really like getting your teeth into those.
Yeah.
Is there something here that you can get your teeth into?
I think so, but I won't have the same sense of movement as that has got. But, you know, hopefully with a few random marks, I can give it a bit of life.
Well, I'm looking forward to your solution to a kind of interesting problem.
I just love mixing colours, really. I am attracted to oranges and those complementaries with the blues and purples, and I just love putting things next to each other, even if they're not really there.
Jill Hurst has a master's in fashion and textiles from Brighton Polytechnic and went on to a career in textile design. Her submission in acrylics is of a flower garden in Brighton's Stanmer Park and captures variation in colour and form using the pinks and textures of the surrounding buildings.
Jill, it's quite a view, isn't it?
It is, it's amazing. It's got so much in it.
We know you love colour, but of course we could see that in your submission. I thought what was so gorgeous about this, that it was very descriptive. I guess you got the chance to do it again today, particularly because there is lovely patches of colour in the formal lawns.
You know, the greens, there's some acid greens, there's some very subtle purples and bright purples.
Pinks and yellow,
and the
I
pinks,
can see.
yeah.
So it's going to be a build-up of lots and lots of these different marks.
And then eventually I'll try and get some detail.
I really hope you're able to pull that off, because there's quite an amazing story to tell, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
I'm painting in oils. I've got so used to using them over the years that I can play around, change colours all the time if I need to. I want it to get a feeling of mystery to it.
After 4 decades working as an artist and art tutor, John Shave is now enjoying painting through his retirement. His submission, captured from the upstairs window of a house on Romney Marsh in Kent, is an enigmatic scene of a snowy field bathed in vivid yellow-orange winter sun.
Good morning, John.
Hello.
You've raced ahead, haven't you?
I like to just fill up the canvas with colour for a start, and then it's just a matter of readjusting.
So, I mean, one of the things we really loved about your submission is there's a lot of freshness to it. That feels quite cool, you know, quite temperate. Will you be looking to capture the heat today as well?
That's the general idea.
Okay. I feel that what I'm looking at is very, very heavy. It's very oppressive.
I might just add a little bit more of the dark colours into here, a little bit more colourful, just to make that dark area come alive a bit more.
Down from the pods, the wildcards are also coming up with standout ways of tackling the view.
I mean, I'm looking at this and it's really bouncing and singing.
I really enjoy seeing where colour can go, and I think the neon always brings out something different.
Yeah, my eyeballs are popping, thank you.
You're welcome.
So are you having a nice day, Stephen?
If anyone asks for me, tell them you haven't seen me.
OK. Would you like to paint?
I can't paint. Don't tell anybody. Do you know I host a painting show?
I've seen you.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a challenge, compressing the landscape and trying to get it wide and broad and get as much of the garden in as possible.
I'm not making as much progress as I would like. I really want to finish off all of the layout and then start putting in the tone with more three-dimensional feels and looks. So I need to get a move on, basically.
I've been trying to sort out this garden, which is immaculate, but mine looks a bit swirly. I just hope I can bring it together so it doesn't just look like lots of marks on a page.
At Hampton Court, 8 artists are halfway through painting the palace's east front and privy garden.
Hello.
Hello,
Welcome
Hannah.
to the oven.
How are you getting on?
I'm trying to show the fullness of the garden without having to put every leaf and flower in.
Right.
It's just now to get the detail and also not overworking it, the classic.
Classic conundrum.
Yeah.
I started off this morning with these background buildings over there behind that gateway, and I've left them dark so that my light in the focal point is going to stand out even more.
My paints are not very well, and all my brushes, they've just turned into, like, treacle, really. So it's like painting with treacle or concrete. So I'm having to use a lot of paint, but it'll be all right.
What a setting. But for an artist, is it majestic or a right royal pain?
There's so much symmetry, so many different perspectives. We've also put them in a difficult position because they're having to deal with the formality of the garden as it's meant to be, but with the reality of the angle that they've got looking at it.
It's interesting to see who's gone for that feeling of heat. You can definitely feel it in Leslie's, can't you?
Yeah, I think Leslie's orange ground has a real sense of heat, which is only going to build as the afternoon goes on.
I just hope that she can keep it loose. I think with the elaborateness of what she's looking at, she could quite easily get bogged down in all the detail, particularly of the topiary.
Barry's behind.
Yeah.
I think it'd be quite interesting if you could carefully work his way around the page, just giving us enough detail to offset that painterly wash he's put down. I mean, that's what his submission worked of. I'm given up on him completely yet.
I mean, he wants to use charcoal. He could get some beautiful flourishes with that. He can do an awful lot with not very many marks. But there's no one denying the fact he's just gone far too slowly.
Jill's struggling with the paint, the heat. She says it's drying very quickly.
It's impossible. The paint's dry before they've even thought to get it out of the tube.
The thing with Jill is that in her submission, it's pretty much the scene that we've got today. You know, she's got the lovely grounds, flowers, and then in the distance, a red brick building.
I like Jill's sense of colour. There's something about being in the heat where things are vibrating. And the way Jill uses colour, you sense the shimmering heat.
These are big gardens, it's a big building, but John has made it seem even more vast and even more epic.
Well, John's given us this very dark, foreboding scene, but it still feels like Hampton Court Palace. It's just a fresher, looser version of it.
It's very strange standing out there in the white, shimmering heat, and John's brought the tonality right down. The colours are much darker, which I don't feel.
Is Batch cooking?
I think what's interesting with Batch is that he's done his research and he's found all these books on Hampton Court itself and the royal palaces, and he's using them in the collage. It's forethought.
I'm surprised that Batch hasn't maybe put down more of a wash or something to get us into a painterly mindset, just to sort of take us away from this very stark emptiness.
Hannah seems to have shrunk the house and enlarged the garden. Are you happy with that?
I love the way that she's created these interesting sightlines across the garden. She's really understood what's fascinating about the space.
The way she puts paint down, it's delicious. I mean, it really goes on nicely.
Ben's giving us 50 shades of green.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben is essentially an abstract artist. And it's as if he's building a tapestry with different stitches in each little organic shape that he's created.
I mean, it's fabulously bonkers, really. It's like he sat there, sort of digested the scene, and it's come out organically. I don't feel that it has the order or structure or geometry of this, but it is a sense of the space in terms of how the eye moves across the landscape.
Imogen's submission showed architectural clean lines with a bit of greenery as well. She's found that, hasn't she, again?
I salute Imogen for finding a scene that was interesting to her. You know, this lovely sort of doorway leading to somewhere else, or something out of a fairy tale, and the steps leading down. I just think she's incredibly behind.
Yeah, Imogen was sort of very nervous. I think just took a long time to work her way around what we'd given her, and then eventually found it somewhere completely different. I think what she's got is intriguing, but we need a bit more.
I got the quill out and I just started putting the marks down, and I've started using collage to put in the palace and match some of the tones that I'm seeing. I just want this piece to sort of convey the chaoticness of today, which is like there's a lot of people, it's really hot.
Oh, hello. Barry.
Hello, hello.
Look at that. You were so behind earlier. Now look at it. It's quite a limited palette, apart from the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the thinking there?
It's like looking at a black and white film or seeing a black and white photograph. They can be really fantastic, can't they? And I love the idea of trying to tease things out and making things look really rich and beautiful.
I've given the palace a slightly more pinky hue rather than going that deep orange, because I don't want it to feel too heavy at the top of the painting. I like the way it's coming together, and it's sort of painterly and abstract and quite true to my style.
Best known as one of Henry VIII's favourite residences, and for its own impressive art collection, Hampton Court Palace owes much of its appearance today to two later monarchs, Mary II and her husband, William III, who reigned together from 1689 until Mary's death in 1694.
A big problem for William was that he had asthma and couldn't live in central London. They came and visited Hampton Court, and William loved it.
The ageing palace needed renovation. Unable to afford a complete rebuild, the royal couple hired superstar architect Sir Christopher Wren to design an extension in the dramatic new Baroque style.
Wren was really involved in building St. Paul's Cathedral, but he was also incredibly keen to have a hand at trying to build a royal palace as well.
As well as a grand new facade, William and Mary commissioned his and hers apartments, each reached by a grand staircase.
Mary had luxurious tastes, and William liked all of the traditional trappings of a king. He even had rooms for his closest friends, his favorites.
By updating the dilapidated palace, William and Mary not only created a contemporary home, but also ensured the building's future.
I think if William and Mary hadn't come in and built this incredible extension, Hampton Court may have just fallen into further ruin, and this palace may not be here today.
In front of the Baroque palace, the wildcards are also styling it out with their artworks.
I'm doing mixed media, so I had to bring basically half my house with me. It's not as practical as in my study, but all good fun.
And as the end of their challenge approaches, the judges are checking on their efforts.
You're looking very cool, calm and collected at this point. Is that because you've finished?
Yeah, it's as done as it can be. I overheated today a little.
Was it?
yeah, made the decision-making a little bit harder.
You know, I'm talking to other artists here. They look at those windows and think, oh, my God, I've got to put all the windows in.
You don't have to do that.
Not with the watercolour.
No.
I've just been watching you put that blue into the shadows, and it's just so yummy, the way it sits on the paper.
But only one wildcard will win.
That's the big one I've been admiring all day. Very good, yes. And there's this one. That which isn't bad at all. I rather like this one.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So much, I can't believe it.
And Sue Smith's romantic, atmospheric depiction is the judge's favourite.
Today's all about excess. It's all about too much. And actually there, you just reduce it. It's really nice and quiet and sort of full of mood. So, well done.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
I just can't believe it. I'm so overwhelmed and so excited. I think that's because of the heat. I wasn't making the right decisions, and so I never thought in a million years that I'd win.
Sue from East Sussex enters a pool of wildcard winners from all the heats, one of whom will be picked to paint in the semi-final. Back in the pods, the artists are soldiering on with a bit of support from the family.
Wave, guys. I've just added the purple for the lavender. I think actually the palace has turned out quite well with the stripy flower pots. And that was a bit of a risk. Hopefully that's paid off.
It was always the intention to leave the orange ground shining through. I'm trying to establish the gardens and the many, many pointy hedges. Same with the windows, just trying to suggest the windows as opposed to do too much.
What I've got left to do is the thing that I've been avoiding, which is the actual palace. Do not feel like I'm on track at all. I feel like I am for the chop at this rate.
8 artists are nearing the end of their 4-hour challenge at Hampton Court Palace in Surrey.
So we're getting to the sharp end of this day. The axe is about to fall. Sorry, Anne Boleyn. How to the wire are you going to go, do you think?
Probably all the way, I imagine. Yeah.
I just realised you are using acrylics, which must have dried in about 3 seconds.
I think I've probably used about £200 worth of paint just from drying it out.
Oh, right.
It's almost done, and I don't want to go too far because I might overwork it and it'll get into a right old pickle then.
You going to finish on time?
I think this has more or less got to be it, or I'm going to start footering.
It's going to start what?
Good Scottish word for messing about. Footering.
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 Oh.
I might be in danger of overworking, so I'm not going to make any more rash decisions.
Artists, you have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Tell them to go away, will you?
Just a little bit of tidying up, I think, before I stop.
It's not where I would like to be. I don't think I will finish.
Artists, your time is up. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your artworks.
Just one of today's 8 artists will win this heat and be one step closer to the coveted title of Landscape Artist of the Year and a £10,000 prize commission for London's Courtauld Gallery. Our winner will travel to the south of France, an area that has inspired generations of artists with its brilliant light and rich colours. They'll retrace the steps of some of the greats of art history, like Impressionist Berthe Morisot, who began work on the port of Nice in 1881.
Berthe Morisot, very, very important female artist. Many people think about Monet and Pissarro, but she was there right at the start. And in this painting itself, we see her trying to capture the movement and the light on the water. So everything is very tentative. And that's that fleeting moment that the Impressionists were so keen to capture. Morisot was quite unusual in being a woman that continued to paint after she got married and take her place in amongst important senior men. And we're looking for an artist who is equally unafraid to take their place at the table with those great artists that painted all those scenes down there.
For now, in Surrey, it's time for the judges to look at the 8 finished works. To help decide which artist to send through to this year's semi-final, their selection is narrowed to a shortlist of 3.
It's like a day of dealing with the kind of rigid conformity and the formal quality of those gardens in that building, and then the kind of artistic desire and imagination and will of the artist to bend it somehow. Leslie chose this fantastic, vibrant orange that really helps lift this picture.
I love when artists play with the underpainting, using a loud colour to work against. Here, it infuses the whole building and makes it slightly unreal. It's interesting seeing how Barry worked this one out. I think the house today just got on top of him. But I do like the mood of this monochrome.
Yeah, I love the mood. I think ultimately what we're seeing is something half-finished. With more time, he could have taken it where he wanted it to go.
Jill's just, I mean, it's a riotous celebration of colour and topiary. And these wonderful purples and the yellows, it's way, way more colourful than what we had in front of us today.
Yeah, I think Jill's got the heat, the shimmering of the colours as they bounce against each other. It's fantastic.
Whereas, John, I mean, where are we? Where has he taken us? I find it quite fearful and foreboding. And for someone who depicts nature in truthfulness, he's completely created an imaginary place.
It's got a very forlorn quality to it, with this luscious paint and quite pretty colour treatment, particularly in the sky with that gorgeous lilac. I think Batch's work is charming. I think it's helped by these painterly qualities, but I'm not getting a strong landscape reading on this. It's very difficult to compare it to the other things.
I like this journalistic, multimedia approach to what is happening today. It's about place, but it's about the people within the place.
Yeah.
And I find it amusing and entertaining.
There are so many funny moments in Hannah's painting, aren't there? I mean, those chimneys that pop up behind the hedge there, it's sort of quirky. It's a really charming work.
I think it is charming, it's amusingly done. In the beginning, the orange underpainting, it looked more contemporary. It was going in a different direction, and with the painting out of that orange, it's become more traditional, more conservative.
Whereas you look at Ben, and it really is quite obviously quirky. I mean, he's sort of found this higgledy-piggledy land. Some of the topiary look like lollipops. They've got a kind of Willy Wonka quality.
It feels weird and organic and psychedelic, but it's very well thought through and structured.
Imogen's found this really great view, and this picture has so much promise, because you can almost sense the weird light that it would have had by the time she finished it.
Yeah, with Imogen, it's quite interesting. She's come up with a really clever way of showing us the weirdness of the garden and the geometry of the house. It's remarkable how little she's done and how much she's saying.
Artists, congratulations on a fantastic day. It's been an absolute pleasure watching you work. The judges have decided on a shortlist of 3. The first artist is Jill Hurst. The second artist on the shortlist is Hannah Day. The third artist is Ben McGregor.
I didn't expect that at all, so I'm really pleased. It's a nice validation to know that you've done good work.
The judges now have the unenviable task of picking today's winner. Only one artist can go through to the semi-final. To help them, they also consider the selected artists' submissions.
Well, it's interesting that the three shortlisted artists, none of them really made the building the main event of their paintings. So the best way to deal with the building was to slightly ignore it.
There are three fantastic pictures of the garden, which also include the building.
I find with Jill's painting, the initial reaction is how beautiful I want to be in that garden. But the more I look at them, the more kind of overwhelming they become. Because there's so much colour, there's so many plants, there's so much going on.
It's just an abundance, isn't it? There's a joy in colour, and that joy spills out of the work, really.
Yeah. There are these lovely passages of yellow in the paintings today. You know, I definitely saw the purple of the lavender spotted here and there, but she's made up these little bits that allow us to take these serpentine movements through the foliage.
Hannah gave us that, obviously interested in colour as well.
Yeah.
That architectural New York scene, and now an architectural garden.
The strangeness of them comes maybe through the saturation of the colour and through the language of the painting. So there's something definitely mildly quirky about Hannah that we can't entirely put our finger on, but we find very enticing.
As we're standing here, I realise how many similarities there are in terms of repetition, vertical disruptions, the sense of space. I think the quirkiness is, you know, the amount of windows she's painted in both these paintings is extraordinary.
Ben's work is really imaginative and interesting. I mean, his submission, those figures where that child is hugging the man with his mouth open on the top right.
What?
Can you see that? This figure here looks like someone burying their head in someone's shoulder, like that.
Okay.
And the person behind is like... So I see things when I look at Ben's work. What do you make of his...
I can't not see it now.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a real particular vision, doesn't he?
And he's seen it through. He wrestled with the building and he was like, right, you can go in, but you're only getting 2 inches at the top. It is very believable, actually, in creating a sense of distance in a landscape which otherwise has very few reference points.
It's like we've stepped off the table with the Mad Hatter's Tea Party and we've gone into this crazy garden and the Queen's going to come out and shout off with his head. It is mad. It is like a tapestry, but it's foam-filled, so every little distinct section is like a little cushion.
Jill, Hannah, Ben, you should be incredibly proud to have got this far. The judges have had a very difficult decision to make today, but the artist going through to the semi-final is... Ben McGregor.
Thank you. I'm unbelievably happy to have got through. So happy. Such an honour.
Ben made such a great decision early on. He was fascinated by this garden and he really showed it to us in this exaggerated way through these shapes and forms. And really it was a masterclass in being able to say, this is what interests me and I'll make it interesting to you too. I think Ben's got a very exciting language and we want to send someone down to the south of France who knows who they are as an artist, who is confident, who could really grow and blossom.
I can't even tell you how much of a confidence boost this is. As an artist, I struggle with confidence in my own work, so yeah, it's absolutely huge for me.
If you'd like to be a pod artist in next year's competition or want to find out more about the work of our featured artists, visit our website Sky Arts Artist of the Year.tv. Next time, we're in Llanberis in North Wales, with 8 new artists ready to take the plunge.
I'm going.
Using sketchy techniques and bold moves.
I need a black on my palette or else I'm not painting at all.
Who will be deep in trouble?
So I'm feeling a bit panicked just because there's a lot to resolve in a very short space of time.
And who will be ending on a high?
Even just an hour more would have been perfect, but I think I can get it done.